Good afternoon, everybody, from sunny Los Angeles. Here we are with the Ancient Faith Radio team at the Assembly of Canonical Orthodox Bishops, and we're having wonderful interviews with some of our incredible hierarchs. And now we're especially honored to have Bishop John on here, who probably needs no introduction to just about anybody on the Ancient Faith Radio platform. I mean, you're one of the kind of the rock stars of the Antiochian Church, because every time I go anyplace, they always ask, you know Bishop John? And it's like, no, I mean, everybody should know this man. But we're here and we're celebrating an extraordinary series of meetings and events and liturgy and stuff like that. So why don't you start, first of all, because I know you have a presentation coming up on the Mental Health Task Force, right?
Yes.
And the Mental Health Task Force, and this is not an indication of anything other than your dedication to this really, really important topic. Why don't you share with everybody a little bit about what the Mental Health Task Force is about and what are some of the things that it's working on?
These are complicated times. And it's just helpful for people who recognize the complexities of the things that they're dealing with to find a fellow Orthodox Christian sometimes who can resonate with their experiences and their faith. So we help people connect. We also help people who have experience in both in the theological world
Mm-hmm.
and the psychological world,
Mm-hmm.
to help people navigate what's real, what is consistent in our faith, to make sense of a world that doesn't make sense. So the task force helps Orthodox Christians feel comfortable understanding what they can trust from the fathers and from human life experience. Psychology is based on observations in the fallen world.
That's a great definition. I mean, I was a psychology major and I never actually heard it defined that succinctly and that powerfully.
Well, thank you.
No, that is really, I mean, that's a great way to articulate it.
While theology is God's revelation.
Right.
So you can't...
In a fallen world, right? I mean, it's like...
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But God's revelation is about making earth like it already is in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
It's what God intends. It's what God reveals to us.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to trust each other, we need to work together. The truth is, the psychological community has sometimes a distrust for the religious community.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it?
And some of that is well deserved. In the name of religion, some people say some really crazy things.
Okay.
You know? And likewise, the church community has some distrust of secular psychologists because they say some really wild and some say some wild and crazy things. So the task force started with Ocampra,
Mm-hmm.
the Orthodox group of medicine, psychology, and religion.
And for those people that don't know, Ocampra has been in existence for quite some time, focusing on the unique intersection of all of these scientific and psychological issues.
Sure, because people who are all Orthodox can learn from each other, can support each other, can work together. And so the task force has created a directory where people can connect, and has been a forum where everybody can learn from everybody. Psychologists become informed by the faith community and the medical community. The clergy become informed by the psychological and medical community. The doctors get a better understanding of their own theology and the psychological world from Orthodox Christians. So it's an opportunity. So to bring all of that together and make it available, to find people who can talk about our crazy times, the experiences that people have, sometimes symptoms of OCD after this crazy pandemic,
Yeah.
results of isolation, depression, aloneness. So we're able to talk about these things, and also able to use the church to help people connect to each other and to God.
Hmm.
God speaks to us as we gather together in His name, and so that conversation is good for the church and good for everybody.
There is probably never, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, we're of this era, but in this era, there's probably never been a more important time for this dialogue to happen, for this work to happen, for this, because of all the craziness going on in the world, the pandemic, the global issues, the fighting, the wars, the this and that, and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit about how you got interested and involved in this, and why this is so important as a part of your ministry.
Early in my priesthood, I had a really bad week. I had 5 people in a 10-day period tell me they had suicidal ideations.
Oh, my Lord. And let me guess, that was not something you were fully prepared for in the seminary, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a guy tell me that he loved his wife, didn't love his girlfriend, but couldn't leave his girlfriend for his wife.
Oh, yeah.
And another guy with sexual addiction, and an old lady who wanted to get her kids' attention, so she drank Drano. So
that was in 1 week?
10 days, 1 week.
Yeah, that's, oh my goodness.
So I recognized that, as you said, seminary didn't prepare me for that kind of week. Of that whole group, I only got one person to seek, who would see a secular counselor.
Okay, but that's great. That's one soul.
So at the time, the American Association of Pastoral Counselors had a training center in Pittsburgh, and they trained pastors to do competent counseling, pastoral counseling.
Right.
So everybody in the program ended up, to get into the program, you needed at least a master's degree in theology. And they gave
that's interesting that that was the requirement. That's beautiful.
Well, because it was a pastoral
right. You know, but that's serious.
And they gave us more than a master's level of training and education, with clinical pastoral education and 90 hours of supervision. All kinds of practical things. So it was a forum where we could talk about our Christian faith and theology together. And so that's how I got interested in psychology. When I studied psychology in college, took introduction, I thought it was nonsense.
Yeah.
And I avoided any psychology after that.
Oh, okay.
Until that week in the parish.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I had the need. It served me, it served the parish, and I thank God for those experiences.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you missed out something, because as a psychology major, if you get past the introductory course and you get into some of the deep stuff, you get a whole different perspective on it, as you now have, of course.
Sure.
Now, tell us a little bit about the work that you've done with the Assembly about making this something that is a much, much bigger exercise than just one priest doing it in one parish and one community, and really trying to help a broader group of people.
I was recruited by the Assembly,
or called by God. You'll sort that one out, right?
Sure. And I just got out of the way of the people who had already been working in both psychology and theology to put things together. And God bless them, they've done a phenomenal job.
Now, in a second, you're going to go down there and make a presentation to the entire group of bishops in there, right?
Well, actually, others will make the presentation, but it's my name on it because I'm the liaison between the Assembly and the ministry.
So without foreshadowing what the bishops have not yet heard, but what's a little bit about that's going to come out in this incredible presentation that's going to be made?
Well, one of the projects that we're doing, we're taking to parishes, so that clergy and lay leaders will be able to navigate when in the church they have people who may have psychotic episodes or critical needs or some kind of crisis, how to de-escalate, how to refer, how to put things together and offer a theological background. So the Assembly's been working really hard in that area and doing a super job. We're also working together to produce materials that parishes can use.
Great.
To meet the needs of their people. It's really hard to talk theology when people are agitated and distracted.
They're struggling
because of the pain of our times.
All right.
So we need to meet people where they are and to help them understand our faith. It's amazing to me how many of the new ideas and the most modern and best psychological frames are things that the Holy Fathers talked about centuries ago.
Yeah, it is interesting.
You know?
Different language, but same concepts, right?
Well, even sometimes
the
same language. You know, even in business. My first degree was in business,
right?
And the newest business strategy is servant leadership.
Yeah.
What is servant leadership?
Christ
girded himself with a towel and washed the feet of his people. That's servant leadership. It's about taking care of the people so that they can take care of the people who take care of your customers. Right. That's business. So bishops are still deacons who are servants who, so the bishops need to take care of the priests, and the priests and deacons need to take care of the people, and the people all together will change the culture, will change the world, will call people back, will reclaim this, the space that God gives us to be holy, to reclaim our time, to be holy time, to really be a manifestation of the kingdom of heaven.
You know, it's so interesting to hear you say that in that observation. Even at my advanced age, by the grace of God, I'm in a doctorate in strategic leadership program, but it's at a Christian university intentionally. And one of the things we've done is we've looked at all of the leadership theories over the last 100 years, from servant leadership on to trait-based, adaptive, authoritative, whatever. And then we've tried to find the theological underpinnings in every one of them. And the truth be known, without any effort, you can find that you know, our Lord and Savior and the apostles and the way it was manifested afterwards, the way we've been taught from an ancient Orthodox perspective, is the foundational essence of every leadership theory that's almost ever been invented. So it's great. So the ministry that you are now helping to inspire is one that's really going to help the parishes deal with some of the challenges that they're facing in the mental health area and with training and development and support.
The real action of discipleship doesn't happen at a bishop level.
Yeah, at an episcopal level,
It happens in the parishes when people are hurting and they have a need and they're ready to listen, and the pastors can be part of their lives. And so we need to equip the lay and clerical leadership in each of the parishes to help people encounter God where they are.
Well, here's something that's interesting that you didn't know, because you have not been privy to the other interviews that we've been doing here on Ancient Faith Radio during the course of this thing. But no one less than you, Archbishop Pio IV, His Beatitude Metropolitan Tikhon, and every bishop that we've talked to has come up and said the exact same thing that you have said, and that I'm not sure people hear often enough, and that is that our hierarchs understand that it happens at the parish level, and that we have to be good servants of the parishes, and that really your ministry, I mean, you know, His Beatitude was talking about how excited he is about moving to Washington so he can be closer to his little diocese and stuff like that, but you've just once again manifested the critical importance that happens at the parish level, that is the essence of what we talk about in the orthosphere.
Sure. People's lives change person to person.
Right.
And what clergy are blessed with is access almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the greatest joy of the priesthood is you don't need to talk about the weather. You don't need to talk about sports. People come to talk about their fears, to talk about God, to talk about how to experience God's forgiveness and love. And so we're always in that reality.
You're the ultimate first responder. I mean,
Absolutely.
you're there before anybody else gets in there, and you're directing traffic at that point.
Absolutely.
So
the life of the priest is just a beautiful life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I served a parish for 33 years.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's where the action is. It felt like 3 lifetimes, because every day I was with people at those critical moments of love, of acceptance, of fear, of pain, of
loss, and crisis, right?
and to help people find God's presence, because God is already there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I visit someone in the hospital, God is already
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But when the priest shows up, they're reminded that God is there, and it's just something that people who are not clergy don't experience as often.
Yeah.
All Christians have this ability and opportunity,
right.
but clergy get it automatically and more easily, because people come to us for that, and when they need it the most. So, and I'm just amazed, you know, how God keeps calling people.
Yeah.
And how many people respond.
Have responded.
And God micromanages his church and calls people to ministry.
Yeah, so what you're really saying is that you're not a first responder, you're a second responder, right? You're following God into the mission field,
Sure,
because he's already there working it.
Already there.
That's good.
And maybe I'm the third, because I'm encouraging the first responders of the parishes to help them better do, I hope, the ministry that God calls every Christian to do.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to that with the last question, but my penultimate question, because I know I need to get you back down there, was you just recorded another video driving around with our new deacon. And I forget the name of that show. What's the name of that show? It's Driving with Jesus or something. No, I actually wrote it down somewhere. It's Wisdom on Wheels. Wisdom on Wheels. And you were, I think, the first or one of the first recorded things.
I was one of the first 3, yeah.
And so there it is. Now Deacon Nicholas on the driver's seat, and you in the passenger seat, and he's interviewing you.
Yes.
And by the way, I thought your interview was great. You actually had one of the best lines of all, and I don't want to tease it, but what was that like? What were you thinking when you were going through that? Because you were so relaxed and seemed so genuine in it.
Well, Deacon Nicholas is, you know, he's a special guy. He has God's love, and he's peaceful, and he's energetic, and he's the kind of man any and every dad would want to be their son.
Yeah.
So
you felt comfortable right away.
So everybody feels comfortable with Deacon Nicholas. What for me the assembly offers us is an opportunity to work together, to know each other, and each person that we know helps us understand and experience God better.
Right.
The Orthodox Church has existed in lots of cultures and manifested itself in lots of different ways in lots of different cultures. And not just the cultures, but every individual is different.
Yes.
There's a world in every human being.
That's a great wait. That's a great line. There's a world in every human being.
Yes.
That's really powerful. Really powerful.
Yeah. Metropolitan Callisto Swear used to say often, God is unknowable, and if man is in the image and likeness of God, he's almost unknowable.
Right.
Fathers Schmemann and Hopko would talk about every human being is different, and so they manifest God differently.
Right.
So every human being that you allow yourself to connect with and be intimate with teaches you something about God that nobody else in the world can.
That's powerful.
You
Yeah.
know? And so as we relate that toward the different cultures, the different American cultures, the Irish cultures, the English cultures, where Orthodoxy is melting together in America, let alone all of the cultures that have been working, the Antiochians, for 2,000 years. And
this is not a new phenomenon for the Antiochian Orthodox Church.
And others 1,000 years, and others, but many generations and years. They all offer a nuance and a beam of light from this diamond that God is, in his expression, that allows us to encounter God in a more deep and beautiful way. So I completely want to support the Assembly and our cooperation and work together. And I also want to keep our theologies and our witnesses and our cultural expressions. I want it all. And the Assembly allows us, in working together and having our people work together, ways of deepening our faith, deepening our understandings of God, his complexities, his love, his generosity, his joy, and his responses to all of the problems and dilemmas that all human beings experience in faith, and to tap into what the truths that each of the cultures have learned by their experiences, by their martyrdom, by the sweat of their ascetics, by the blood of their martyrs. It's a wonderful thing.
See, this to me, hearing you articulate it so eloquently and so passionately, is kind of like this big vision of unity of orthodoxy in America that, with all due respect, we all come from different parts of the orthosphere globally. I feel sorry for my family in Greece who don't have that same opportunity to interact as regularly with Antiochians and Russians and Serbians and Ukrainians and people from, even the Coptics and stuff. It just, we have a unique opportunity when we talk about Orthodox unity in America. This is an opportunity that very few places globally have. And this is really, in large essence, what the Assembly is all about, is figuring out how to make that beautiful mosaic, that beautiful quilt, use whatever metaphor you want, come together and manifest itself.
Especially in a world that's global and pluralistic and confused and doesn't believe in truth and has lost an understanding of God. To be able to witness in so many ways to everybody. That Sunday before Christmas, we read the genealogy of 14 generations plus 14 generations plus 14 generations before Christ is born.
And if you're not paying attention, that just skips over your head. You're like, okay, get on with that.
Like, strange names.
Let's get to Jesus, right? That's what it's all about.
But in that list are Jews and non-Jews, Greek speakers and non-Greek speakers, males and females. The lineage of Jesus includes people who have done terrible crimes and who were not nice people, and all of this shows that the flesh that Christ embodied is real flesh, and that his salvation is for the whole world.
See, that's a homily that you need to preach to all the churches so that we don't skip over and miss the meaning and the impact of why that's there. I mean, sometimes it's hard, for those of us who are not trained as you are to really fully appreciate that, but the way you've just articulated it is very powerful to understand that.
Thank you. I've had good teachers.
Yeah, well, and you're a good teacher yourself. So I mean, you've got a reputation of being, a good teacher in that regard. So there's worse things than that. Okay. Final words. Any final words? What's your final ask of the faithful that you would like to get across to them?
Christianity is about growing up.
Christianity is about growing up.
And growing
we need to write that one down. I'm looking at the Ancient Faith Radio team here. That ought to be a show unto its own self, right? I like that.
And growing up means getting out of the sandbox,
Yeah.
and instead of concentrating on your wants and your needs
The
and
me,
your
me.
desires, to get your focus off of your belly button and onto God.
Right.
And the more we can focus on Christ and his way and his love and what he's doing in us and through us, the more we can make this world a reflection of the kingdom of heaven.
And that, I could not have thought of a better way to end this, from starting with the mental health journey that we're on to the notion that we are all the world and each of us is a world and each of us are part of the world, and that an Orthodox pathway gives us the answer to all that. So Your Grace, thank you very much for taking the time for doing this and for everything else you do for the Assembly, and particularly for the mental health. And I hope that the listeners and the watchers will take an opportunity to look at the enormous amount of resources on the Assembly of Bishops website, particularly with the mental health initiative as one of the key initiatives out there. So we're going to come back later on today with a few more interviews to show why you are so blessed to have so many dynamic hierarchs in our Orthodox Church, as we all work closely together to bring people closer to Christ and each other. So this is Bill Marianes from Stewardship Calling and the entire Ancient Faith Radio team that's over here. Let's take a pause. We're going to go back in the Assembly meeting, and we'll be back soon. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.